This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. Talking the stories that are shaping headlines, plus those that make you go,
Very exciting time for Sharjah and for the UAE. Welcome back onto the program. This is Rania Saadi with Abdul Karim Hanif and Ahmed Dawood. Why is it an exciting time? Because we are celebrating or we are anticipating the opening day of the Sharjah International Book Fair that will be on November 4th. It will be until November 14th. As for now, we are, yesterday, the 10th Publishers Conference kick-started yesterday, also in Sharjah Expo Center. It's a 3-day program. It will be up until tomorrow, and it will be right before the SIBF. That will be this year as a hybrid event. It will be a hybrid event. And we have our very own Aisha Al-Mazmi, Ahmed Dawood.
Hello.
They will be discussing various events and activities in this exceptional hybrid online-offline format of the book fair. We have exciting interviews of world-renowned authors coming up in the book fair this edition, including Prince E.A. will be there, Lang Lee will be there, Ian Rankin, Elizabeth Adami, Ravinder Singh, among many others. And this year's theme will be The World Reads from Sharjah. So everybody will be reading from Sharjah from the book fair at Expo Center. So it's very exciting this year. It's going to be different. It's going to be unique. We also talked to His Excellency Ahmed Raqad Al-Amri about this, and you can catch the conversation on our SoundCloud. Just type in Morning Majlis and look for the title, The World Reads from Sharjah at the SIBF, to have all the inside details about how this year's book fair will look like. So, and if you want also more details about the program, you can also visit sibf.com for that as well. Ahmed, are you excited?
Yeah, I'm greatly excited. It's going to be a major event for us here in Sharjah. It's pretty big for our economy, for the book industry, and pretty big for us here at Pulse 95 because we're going to get a lot of awesome content from this whole thing.
Yeah.
So we look forward to covering that, and we'll be talking about this in more detail later on this hour. We're also going to be talking about a number of other developments, particularly in Saudi Arabia. Pretty big story. Foreign Muslim pilgrims are finally been allowed into the Grand Mosque in Mecca for the first time since COVID-19 restrictions were imposed 7 months ago. Incredible footage pouring in from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we'll talk about how those proceedings are going as well, and many more stories to discuss.
Newcastle United winning against Everton. We're excited. Well, at least I am. Looking forward to this discussion. And it is going to be a Premier League update, what's happened, because yesterday we also saw a big game, Manchester United versus Arsenal. Big guns of the Premier League going head-to-head. We'll talk to you all about that as well. But, of course, the big story of the day is the Sharjah International Book Fair. We've got a dedicated show, a live show from the event, and you can be part of that by tuning in to Pulse 95 and also checking out all the updates on our social media handles of Pulse 95 Radio on Instagram. And we'll be right back with all of this. So stay tuned, and we'll continue the discussions on the Morning Majlis.
Pulse 95. Between local lines, notes from the Emirate.
Hello, welcome back on to the program, and we're talking about the 10th Publishers Conference that it was inaugurated actually yesterday in the lead up to the 39th Sharjah International Book Fair. That has been symbolic of a fresh start for the global publishing fraternity, as 317 professionals and 33 speakers reunite in what is a first-of-its-kind global gathering of industry professionals since the COVID-19 pandemic led to cancellations of some of the biggest book events internationally this year, not just locally. But yeah, the formal proceedings of the 3-day conference organized by the Sharjah Book Authority begun with His Excellency Ahmed bin Raqad Al-Amri, chairman of the SBA, extending warm welcome to both in-person and virtual attendees, saying that our meeting today is an exceptional one because we are among global pioneers dedicated to developing a brand new model of hybrid events until coronavirus ends.
Yes, Rania, and in a session titled Publishing, Pivoting for the Future, How Virtual Events and Social Media Are Connecting Publishers and Readers Across the Globe, a number of panelists from international publishers all around the world discussed how publishers are navigating this current climate. So a number of talks at the Publishers Conference, which saw a number of major figures representing Midas, for instance, Harper One as well, HarperCollins, all the big publishers from the U.S. and the United Kingdom were involved. And they talked about this changing landscape and highlighted the need to boost tools and resources available to the region in order to access untapped commercial potential using virtual events and other innovative means of gaining readers as well.
Yep, of course, and it is going to be a massive conference. The panel also is going to, there's a specific panel that will be as part of the first session of the 3-day conference, Global Publishing Spotlight, Surviving and Thriving During a Pandemic. The discussions were led by Lisa Milton and major players in the publishing industry in the United Kingdom as well as India as well. And the panel offered a global perspective on the after effects of the pandemic on book industries. And there was a lot of talk about how it's fantastic to have a book fair because a number of major events were cancelled. London Book Fair as well was among one of them that was not held. And finally, we have this new major book fair here in the Emirate of Sharjah, the 39th one as well. And we're excited to end the year on a much brighter note than the way it started. And for us here at Pulse 95, and the book fair is going to be a very exciting one anyway. We've got a dedicated show. Ahmed Dawood is going to be part of it as well. In terms of timings, do we have anything decided, Ahmed, yet?
Yeah, so the timings, we're going to announce them on tomorrow's show in the lead up to the Sharjah International Book Fair, but certainly tune in to us after 10 o'clock. We'll be on Aisha Al-Mazmi and I, and Alia as well, Alia Al-Hazami. She's an Emirati-based author, and it's going to be a comprehensive, all-encompassing show. We're going to talk all things Sharjah International Book Fair. We're going to talk about our love of reading, of literature, and the pretty elaborate program they have in store for us, particularly the cultural program, the online sessions at sharjahreads.com. So we're sort of going to walk you through the International Book Fair, even take you there with us as we feature some of the best books that will be sold on that book fair. We'll even tell you on which aisle and which area of the book fair you could find them. So we do have a lot in store, and we'll be announcing all the details on tomorrow's show.
We're definitely looking forward to that. But for now, the 10th Publishers Conference will continue today and tomorrow with a packed program of discussions and debates, allowing attendees to look into ways they can work collaboratively and chart a clear course ahead for the publishing industry. And then comes the 11-day Sharjah International Book Fair that will follow starting on Wednesday with, as we said, a hybrid online-offline cultural program. It's very exciting, So we're looking forward to that. So stay tuned for more conversations, only here on the Morning Majlis, nowhere else but on Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95. Pulse 95. It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the program. It's pretty delightful. We've been getting a lot of texts on the stories we've been discussing. So keep them going and join the conversation at 4215. And we're pretty excited as well because we are pretty much going to be celebrating tolerance here in the country as senior government officials, students, writers, diplomats, and artists are all going to be taking part in the upcoming National Festival for Tolerance and Coexistence that is set to begin on November 9th.
Yeah, and most of the events will be hosted online as a precautionary measure against the COVID-19 spread, of course. And the week-long festival encourages compassion and peaceful coexistence. And the annual event celebrates really the International Day for Tolerance and promotes the values of tolerance and human fraternity. The festival presents to the world the UAE's legacy as set by the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan 50 years ago. Addressing a virtual press conference on Sunday, Sheikh Nahyan bin Mubarak Al Nahyan, Minister of Tolerance, said, The festival illustrates the role of values in promoting hope among all UAE residents, motivating them to work, create, and also innovate. He also said his ministry's role is to promote values of tolerance, coexistence, respect, and acceptance of others intellectually, culturally, and religiously as well. It also renounces violence and extremism through programs and initiatives organized throughout the year as well.
Yes, of course. And we're excited about this because more events are taking place here in the United Arab Emirates. And as we hear stories of different parts of the world going into a lockdown sort of a situation as well. But luckily here, we're blessed with a fantastic medical infrastructure and a great way of how we've dealt with the COVID-19 situation. For a prime example, we're hosting the Indian Premier League as well. So we are at the forefront here in the country in terms of how well we've been able to contain the spread of the virus. And over 6,000 school students will take part in it. 81 public and private schools from across the Emirates will take part in this festival. It will all be in coordination with the Ministry of Education and different education councils in the neighboring Emirates.
Yeah, 81 public and private schools will be participating under the festival that is going under the theme Following Zayed's Approach. Sheikh Nahyan noted that the message is in line with the legacy of the founding leader and stressed the importance of diversity and communication to achieve benefit for everybody. And we're also going to be looking forward to special events being held to tie in with the UN's International Day for Tolerance, set to take place on November 16. So much to look forward to.
So much to look forward to indeed. Stay with us on the Morning Majlis. We'll go prepare for the business news headlines, and after that we'll continue do the discussions here on the show, particularly when it comes to pilgrims in Saudi Arabia, as well as Newcastle's win over Everton. All of this will be discussed right here on the Morning Majlis.
This is Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Well, we're looking at new ways to detect COVID-19. That's what researchers are looking into. And one breath test has been developed in Wales and may be able to distinguish COVID-19 almost immediately, within seconds rather than hours, opening up the possibility of rapid identification of the disease. Now, this is being done by developers IMS Specs Diagnostics. They said that the device could be ready to use in 6 months if they can secure funding. They said the potential for this is immense, getting your result right away.
Well, there's definitely a whiff of hope on the coronavirus diagnosis horizon. This is a non-invasive breath test that can identify key biomarkers in the exhalations of someone infected with the virus, with results available in just under a minute. And this is according to the study that the researchers at a UK university have been working on. They've worked with a development company that had initially been working on this technology to detect lung cancer and other illnesses, and also to distinguish between bacterial and viral respiratory diseases quickly. So what they did is they studied 98 patients, 31 of them with COVID-19, and were able to diagnose a number of conditions, including asthma, exacerbation of asthma and COPD, viral pneumonia, other respiratory tract infections, and cardiac issues as well. So the researchers worked with the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh and also another hospital in Germany, partnering with the IMSPECS group based in Wales and Germany. And the team identified candidate biomarkers present in the breath of someone affected by COVID-19. So what they're saying is that this non-invasive breath test generated almost instant results. And the research demonstrated how these markers or breath signatures can be used to rapidly distinguish COVID-19 from other respiratory conditions at point of need.
The equipment analyzed single breath samples looking for volatile chemicals present in the expelled air that might give scientists a clue to why a patient was sick and had respiratory issues. And this test were able to make out a signature for COVID in the chemicals, which was then confirmed by more traditional and invasive swab tests as well. And it's going to be very interesting. They say this could be used in aviation, could be used in transportation, could be used in other services area where you need a quick test and a quick decision in terms of whether you're safe enough to board a flight or not. And it's going to be very interesting if it happens. They said that the development and validation of this process may allow rapid diagnosis of the COVID-19 in the coming endemic flu seasons. And a person from the Loughborough University's Department of Chemistry said he was hugely encouraged by the results. And it's going to be very, very interesting to see. They say, however, these remain small-scale studies with about 100 patients involved. And they're hoping that this could be the next big thing, a breathalyzer test for COVID-19.
Yeah, indeed. And within their small sample, they had in 80% of the cases, they were able to accurately predict if the patient had COVID-19. So it is especially promising because one of the factors that causes people to shy away from getting their COVID test is just how invasive it is.
Absolutely.
The two leading tests for COVID, antigen detection and the PCR test, both utilize that invasive way of taking a sample, can be uncomfortable for many patients and has been discouraging those who need to get a test and otherwise wouldn't. So this easy breath analyzer test would make it a lot easier to get people tested. You've noted aviation. It could also be targeted towards children or those who are not too excited about getting a swab stuck down their nose to detect active infection. So we can continue to follow this development, but a pretty interesting way here to detect COVID-19 and showing a lot of promise.
Just trying to think. I've done 7 tests. 7 swab tests.
7 swab tests.
And all of them have been slightly uncomfortable.
The thing is, it lingers. When you walk out, you can feel it in the back of your throat, your eyes are teary, and it takes you a while to get back into normalcy. But the feeling of getting in line and waiting for your turn, it's one of dread for me.
Yeah, but again, it still depends on the nurse. I still believe that.
On the practitioner.
I still believe that.
Definitely
My experience is I was tested 3 times, and each experience was totally different than the other one, even though they were conducting the same test and the same mechanism and method. But it depends on the nurse for sure.
Yeah, I prefer the drive-through ones, to be honest. Saha does it best. And taking no credit away from the healthcare professionals across the nation and those working in the hospitals. But for me personally, I've always been a big fan of the drive-through test because you're still in your own car, your own personal space. You're not waiting in a queue in a hospital or a clinic.
You're exposed more.
You're exposed more and you get anxious as well, waiting around. At least in your car, you can sit down and either tune into their advisory on 87.5, I think it is, on their frequency, or just stay tuned to Pulse 95. Keep listening to the Majlis to keep you motivated and the musical entertainment on offer on the station. Stay with us. We've got lots to talk about as well as we continue the discussions here on the Morning Majlis. And we're live until 10 a.m. And if you'd like to share your thoughts and opinions, you can do so on the text lines 4215. Up next, we're talking about the typhoon in the Philippines. Stay tuned to Pulse 95.
This is Pulse 95. Pulse 95. It's the Morning Majlis. It's the Morning Majlis.
Some 10,000 international pilgrims are arriving in Saudi Arabia after a 7-month hiatus. They are here to perform Umrah and visit the Prophet's Mosque on the first day of the 3rd stage of the resumption of Umrah. And according to the Deputy Minister of Hajj and Umrah, Dr. Amr al-Maddah, the 10,000 pilgrims arriving from abroad had to first obtain a permit. And upon their arrival, they have to isolate for 3 days before being transported to the holy sites, at which pilgrims intending to perform Umrah must change to Ihrams. So pretty remarkable development here, and beautiful footage pouring in of the pilgrims coming in from abroad to perform this ritual.
Absolutely. It is beautiful. Just looking at it just sends chills to my spine when I see it. But yeah, Saudi Arabia has reported over 347,000 cases of COVID-19 and 5,402 deaths ever since the pandemic started. But thankfully, there have been 333 and over that, actually 333,000 recoveries in the kingdom so far. It is phasing the reopening of its mosques as part of a gradual easing of restrictions across the kingdom. But as for Umrah, Saudi residents were allowed to perform Umrah starting in October last month. Yeah, and numbers were raised to accommodate pilgrims from abroad this month, and it went through a 4-phase kind of a program, let's just say. So now we have reached the last phase, thankfully, but only 10,000 Saudi Muslims or Muslim residents were allowed to perform the annual Hajj pilgrimage in July this year, vastly down from the millions who have taken part in previous years, like the one pictured. For example, there's a picture of in 2016, it was fully packed.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely different this year due to the pandemic.
Yeah, I think, this was one of the most powerful images when you saw the Grand Mosque, which you'd know so well acquainted with how it's going to be busy, it's packed, was sparse. It was empty. And during the pandemic, when they shut the doors of the Grand Mosque, it was terrifying images. You could see the whole the Haramain, which tend to be extremely busy, and now they're deserted. Now there was not a soul in sight apart from the people who worked there. Those were the striking images. Just went on to show how powerful this pandemic has been, that it even brought the holiest of all sites to a standstill. And then we had the Hajj pilgrimage. I think there was a lot of talk of this being one of the very first Hajjs in our lifetime being cancelled and not being taking place. And luckily we were able to do that. So that's resilience shown then. Over 10,000 pilgrims who took part in the Hajj. Just went on to show that it built the confidence of the Saudi authorities to eventually have the Umrah pilgrimage as well conducted. And now allowing foreign pilgrims is such an important step. We're a step in the right direction, and we're hoping that this momentum continues. And the fact is that the Umrah pilgrimage and the Haramain once again gets the footfall that it rightfully deserves.
Indeed, Abdul Karim. And what is happening now with opening up the Umrah pilgrimage to foreign visitors? This is the third part of Saudi Arabia's 4-phase resumption plan, which began on the 4th of October. And this comes just days after Saudi Arabian Airlines said they plan to resume services to 33 international destinations starting next month. And things are looking more optimistic for Saudi Arabia as a whole in terms of its management of COVID-19. Looking at this month, for instance, daily infections are hovering around the 400 mark. And this is way below what was happening from June to July, when infections were 4,000, 5,000 every other day as well. So things are getting a lot better, and this should ramp up demand for commercial flights into the country, increase transport fuel demand into Saudi Arabia as well. So overall, a really positive development for the country.
Umrah is going to be a lot more comfortable now, because for a person like me who's been fortunate enough to do a lot of Umrahs. I've been doing it from a very young age, because I grew up in that country and I used to go there. That used to be my weekend hotspot, so going down for the Umrah.
Lucky you.
Yeah, but I was a kid, so I didn't realise it. But as I grew older and took part in the Umrah pilgrimage, the amount of times I got pushed around or, walked into or bumped around, I wasn't a big fan of it. I was like, why are people so rude? But they're not rude. It's just the way things are going. It's Umrah pilgrimage. People are just in a rush to do things. And for claustrophobic people as well, it was terrifying as well. Now, with social distancing, it's going to be a very, very comfortable Umrah. So it is quite good news. So make the most of it if you're one of those who gets slightly agitated by the big crowd. And the good news is that life is going back to normal at the Islam's holiest site. So well done to Saudi authorities, and what we'll do now is we'll take a bit of a breather. We'll prepare for the world of sports headlines, Premier League was in full swing yesterday, and there was a couple of games, but the only important game was Newcastle versus Everton.
Sure.
And that was the important result as well. Had it gone the other way, it wouldn't have been a very important game at all. But we'll talk to you about that in greater detail. So come join us and have your say on the matter. 4215, the text lines remain open for us to have this conversation. Stay tuned to the Morning Majlis.
If you liked this episode of The Morning Majlis, drop a like and subscribe.
95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.
Bubbles.